Hello out there, everyone. Welcome to the next session here. We have the next session from Joanna Jablonski on how to make a doc site. So I'm excited to see everyone here. I'm going to just bring Joanna up. Hi, Joanna.
Hello.
So I know Joanna, it's no she has been known to the Python community and has been contributing to the whole community for some time. And I see that she's everywhere. And if you want to check out her tutorials, you can just keep scrolling and scrolling and scrolling and scrolling. And she's just an amazing educator. I'm going to leave this time and the stage to Joanna. And I'm pretty sure she's going to do her own introduction. All right?
Sounds good. Thank you for that lovely introduction. And I think we can share my screen now because I've got some intro information on there.
Definitely. Just give me a minute. It will take some time. And the stage is yours.
Awesome. Thank you so much. All right. Welcome to How to Make a Doc Site. I'm Joanna, and here's a little info about me. I broadly think about docs so that you don't have to. If you came to this session, I'm guessing that you have some kind of project you want to share with the world. I feel like everyone has some kind of fabulous open source project within them, just waiting to get out. And I am here to help you find a path of least resistance to having an effective doc site for that. So that you can have lots of happy users, but also so that you can basically get back to working on the rest of your project and not spend more time working on the docs than you necessarily need to. And I have been working in docs and developer education for a while now. I've worked at places like RealPython, Anaconda, and CircleCI. I'm on the editorial board for Python's official docs, and I also authored PEP 732. I also co-authored the book Python Basics with David Amos, and I was the primary reviewer on Anthony Shaw's book on CPython internals. And just generally, I help developers learn because I like code, words, and people. And in this session, you're going to get the basic info you need to make a doc site that is easy to set up, easy to maintain, and easy to use. You're going to get the absolute minimum information you need about tools, information architecture, SEO, technical writing. The talk is not going to be remotely theoretical. It's just going to be short, practical, and opinionated so that you can go out and start building right away. Here's what we're going to cover. We're going to see how to make your docs easy to maintain. So that means we're going to look at docs as code, docs tools, and having just enough content. We're also going to see how to make your docs site have information that's easy to find. So we'll look at information architecture, user journeys, types of documentation, and SEO. And at the end, we're going to look at some writing tips, see what you can do to make your docs easy to read, paragraphs, sentences, vertical lists, and focusing on your reader. All right, so how are we going to make your doc site easy to maintain? You can save yourself a lot of time and effort if you treat your docs like code, if you use tools that will make writing and publishing easier, and if you limit the scope of your content. Docs as code. If you're taking a docs as code approach to your docs, it means that you are using the same tools, practices, and processes for your docs that you are already using for your code. So you can use issue trackers, version control, automation, whatever you need. And when you make docs this way, you write your docs content in a markup language. Then you can store those files in a VCS to stay on top of changes and request reviews. Then you use a static site generator to turn those markup files into HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. And then if you want, you can use a CI/CD tool to build, test, and deploy, and just generally make life easier for yourself that way. There are a lot of docs tools out there that you can look at. You will need to choose a markup language if you're just looking for something that you can pick up quickly and just start running with without thinking about too much. Markdown is a good choice. There are more powerful options out there, like ASCII doc and restructured text. And people who are really into docs tend to really like those, but Markdown will take you far if you just need to get it done. It is simple and widely used. And one more thing to consider when you are selecting a markup language is that not all markup languages work with all static site generators. They need to work together as a pair. Speaking of static site generators, there are a ton to choose from. Personally, I am quite impressed with Docusaurus because it lets you get the first version of your site out without being too ambitious if you want, but it will also grow with your project. So as your project matures down the line, if you want to be a bit more ambitious, improve the functionality, the look, Docusaurus will let you do that without you changing tools. Also, because Docusaurus was made specifically for doc sites, it has features that are useful for doc sites right built in, such as document versioning, content reuse. It has Algolia search. It also lets you use React. You can embed components right in your Markdown. But since I assume everyone here is using Python, there are also some great Python options. mkdocs is great. It's fast. It's simple. It uses Markdown. It has some of the same value propositions as Docusaurus. It was also made specifically for doc sites. Sphinx is also great. It integrates with Read the Docs for hosting. So if you're working on your open source project and want to share it with the world, that could be a really useful angle for you. It also uses restructured text, which, fun fact, is actually older than Markdown. And Sphinx and restructured text is what is used for Python's docs. Pardon me. All right, when you are choosing a static site generator, you need to ask yourself a few questions. Does it have docs features? There are a lot of static site generators out there. Not all of them are made for docs, and you might want something that has those features built in. Is it based on a programming language you already use? So maybe you want a Python one. Is it actively maintained by a good community, which is a question you might ask yourself about any open source project. Does it have themes you like? And does it use a markup language that you like? So that's it for tools. Now we're going to look at one more thing that you can do to make your doc site easy to maintain. And that is having just enough content, because the less documentation you have, the easier it's going to be to keep it up to date. When you are choosing code examples to include, pick the most common use cases. Avoid having so many code blocks that some will not be maintained. It's also good to keep your content modular. Keep it dry, avoid repeating the same information in multiple places. Instead, consider linking to one place that will be the one source of truth for that topic. That's all the info on how you can keep your docs site easy to maintain. Now we're going to look at how we can make the information in your docs easy to find. You're going to help your users a ton if you structure your docs in the ways that they expect, if you have a defined purpose for each page, and if your pages are ranking high on Google. When we're talking about doc structure, we need to talk about information architecture and user journeys. Information architecture is the way that your doc site is structured, and user journeys are the paths that your users take through your docs to find what they need. And when you're structuring your docs, you need to know who's going to be using them, what your users are trying to do, and what words they use to describe what they're trying to do, because it is way too easy to accidentally make a doc site that makes sense to the people who are building the project and not to the people who are using the project. And it really needs to make sense to the people who are using the project. And when you're structuring your docs, in general, structure your docs by task, because people will be coming to your docs because they're trying to do something. So you need to make clear and efficient click paths to help them achieve their goals quickly. You will also need to make some more theoretical content, like concept guides, but for the most part, people are coming here because they want to do something, help them do that thing. It's also good to use the terminology that your users do. So find out what words they use to describe what they're trying to do. And then once you decide what term you're using, be consistent, stick to it. So here are a couple of examples you can think of. People who are experts in a topic tend to use different terminology than people who are new to a topic. And people who are coming to your project from after having used another project, they might be still thinking in terms that that other project was using. So find out what words your users are using, and then just use them, be consistent, stick to it. Okay, now for types of documentation. When you are creating a new page in your doc site, it's useful to keep in mind that there are 4 general categories of docs that your users will need, depending on whether they're studying or working, and depending on whether they need practical steps or theoretical knowledge. When they're studying and need practical steps, they'll need tutorials to learn skills. When they're studying and need theoretical knowledge, they will need discussions to understand concepts. When they're working and need practical steps, they'll need how-to guides to solve problems. And when they're working and need theoretical knowledge, they will need references to look up details. SEO is a topic that is often overlooked for doc sites, but it can help you a lot because when your users have problems, they will be Googling them, and so it's in your best interest to make sure that your pages rank as high as they can. And the rules for SEO are constantly changing, but there are some basic best practices that you could keep in mind, like have high quality original content that isn't duplicated anywhere else, either on your site or elsewhere on the internet, will rank higher. So that's another reason to keep your content modular. And content that is well written will also rank higher, so do try to write well. Linking is important for SEO. Pages that are linked to a lot will rank higher. You can also just build links between your own pages, which is also part of keeping your content modular. But also be sure to include links to pages outside of your site when you are writing your docs pages. And this next one's a little bit trickier, but read time affects page ranking as well. So in general, it is a good idea to help your readers spend more time on a page, but this gets a little bit thorny because also you want people to just get in and get out and solve their problem without having to dig. But, in theory, you could avoid publishing pages with very little content and maybe consider embedding videos to increase read time on a page. But this is getting a little bit more complicated. And because it's SEO, key phrases are important. Use your key phrase in the URL, in the H1, and at least one H2 in the first paragraph and throughout the page. You don't want to overdo it and just have the whole thing be the key phrase, but it's SEO. Key phrases are still kind of a thing. If you want to learn more about SEO, you can check out Google's guide. It has a little starter guide on SEO. And if you want to look at an SEO tool, you could look at Ahrefs. Okay. We're done. How to make sure your docs are easy to maintain, how to make sure the information in your docs is easy to find. Now we're going to look at how to make your docs easy to read. Because we're getting into writing tips, they won't apply to all languages equally. Broadly, I'm targeting this towards English. And you can save your readers just generally a ton of effort if you make your docs easy to skim and if you focus on your reader. Skimmability for docs is huge. People will come to your docs and the less they see a wall of text that they need to spend a lot of time digging through, the happier they're going to be. So make your paragraphs easy to skim. You can do that by using topic sentences. So when you write a paragraph, make sure that the first sentence summarizes the point of the paragraph and focus on only one topic per paragraph. That way, when readers are just looking down the page, they could look at the start of each paragraph and not really miss that much, figure out where they need to be, they're comfortable, they get their stuff done, everyone's happy. It's also good to keep paragraphs short when you're trying to make them skimmable. No walls of text. Keeping between 3 to 5 sentences per paragraph is generally a good goal. It's also good to make your sentences easy to skim, keep your sentences short, cover one idea per sentence. If you have a long sentence, consider turning it into a vertical list. If you look at this slide, it has short sentences and vertical lists. It is incredibly easy to skim. You can read it basically without meaning to at all, just by accident. And that is generally a useful feature for docs pages to have. It's also good to write clearly, use the active voice rather than the passive voice, use precise, strong verbs. If you want to review some of these grammatical concepts, Google has a great free short course on technical writing that I will link to from a repo that I'm going to mention at the end of the talk. And vertical lists, I love vertical lists. This whole slide deck has been vertical lists. They're useful for technical writing. They help you group and separate ideas. They make the steps for a particular process clear. They just generally make a page more skimmable. And I just love vertical lists. Use them. They're great. When you are making a vertical list, it is a good idea to keep your list items in parallel structure. So you want to structure all of the list items in one individual vertical list in the same way. So if one of them describes an action, they should all describe an action. Sometimes I explain this by saying that the Lego comes in different sizes and shapes. and you want all of the list items in an individual list to be the same size and shape of Lego piece, so they all slot into a sentence in the same way. When making vertical list items, it is also a good idea to make your point early. Start lists of steps with the imperative form of a verb, like open or delete, rather than opening or deleting. If I'm working through a list and I'm reading, so okay, open this and do this, okay, I'll go do that. But if it's something a bit more ambiguous, and it's like opening this and this will do this, I don't know if I'm supposed to do it. Is this an instruction? Is it a warning? Is it telling me something I'm going to do later? It can get a bit frustrating. So make your point early and be super unambiguous. And last biggest point, focus on your reader. With everything that you're doing for your doc site, from how you're structuring to how you're reading, generally it's a good idea to build sentences around the word you. It will help you avoid using the passive voice, but it also just helps you keep focus on your reader and moving things forward in a way that's useful for them, focusing on their needs, their tasks, their perspective. And it can nudge you away from just writing, like going on tangents and writing about whatever technical topic you want to be writing about because it's interesting to you. So stay focused on your reader. And if I had to say just one thing about technical writing, it would be to sound clear rather than smart. The more time you save your users with simple docs, the faster they're going to see how sophisticated your project is. And their success is your success. That is it. That is the talk. You're ready to go out there and make a doc site that is easy to set up, easy to maintain, easy to use. You've got just enough info about tools, information architecture, SEO, technical writing. In theory, you could learn about all of these subjects forever, but you're ready to go out and do it. So go out and do it. But if you want to keep learning, you are, of course, welcome to. You can check out my repo, How to Make a Doc Site Shortcuts for Busy Devs, on GitHub. My handle on GitHub is Jablonski Dev. And I would love to hear, tell me what you want to learn, because I'm working on a bigger project to help developers make docs. I'd love to hear from you. And just in general, I'm always happy to talk about docs and developer education. So feel free to reach out. Here are some places where you can reach me. And that is it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Joanna. That's very, very interesting. So I learned a lot there. It's making me want to know more about vertical list.
Yeah, I have a lot of passion about vertical lists. I'm afraid I can't contain it.
Yeah, so thank you so much for your talk. It's amazing. So we'll catch you up later on. And if there's any questions, please do not hesitate to reach out to Joanna. Have a great one. Bye.
Take care.